Hello, my name is Matthew Aarons, and I'm going to present my Comp 116 Computer Security Project, GPS and Wireless Signal Jamming Attacks and Defenses. What is GPS? GPS, as many of you know, is the thing in your phone to tell you where you are on the map. But how does it work? It works where 27 to 30 satellites are orbiting around the Earth and have fixed points on different lat-long locations on the Earth. It was originally used for military use in the 60s, but come the 1980s it was demilitarized for civilian use. A special civilian band was produced, and so military and civilians could use it separately. And it became more robust in 2007, where under the Clinton administration, the United States said, well, we don't want to only make the civil side nerfed by selective availability, so that was disabled to have it be much more accurate and much more useful. More signals, more often. What's happening now, and why is this important? Well, there are 3 brand new bands opening up for GPS, in addition to the L1 band that civilians currently use. There's the L2C band, which is to provide accuracy comparable to military-grade use. There is the L1C band, which is to provide interoperability for urban and suburban environments to the European system, Galileo, which is also a global navigation satellite system. And then there's the most interesting, which is the L5 band. This is a dedicated band for specifically life safety, such as public transit, medical, police, other EMT, airport, trains, etc. Why does this concern the people making the policy, and why does what does not concern them concern us? Well, the policymakers, the NMEA and the GPS Foundation, the U.S. GPS Foundation, are concerned with quality of service. They're concerned with the satellite being robust, being able to penetrate areas with large buildings, a lot of noise, a lot of cars, competing signals such as Wi-Fi, WiMAX that are on close bands, TV, the old FCC TV bands, etc. And they care about accuracy and precision. They care about the quality of their product, essentially. But what we care about is what happens when someone hijacks a signal. Currently, military is the military signal is the only signal that has encryption and authentication. The civilian signal comes down in plain text and cannot be verified. There are other cases that are handled, such as checksum, that shows the validity of the signal, but that only defends it against noise. That defends it against if the signal has been degraded by noise and the data is different, not if it has been hijacked by attackers. The code that we use to determine whether a GPS signal has come from the satellite is called the CA code, which is the Coarse Acquisition Code. It is a pseudo-random number stream that uniquely identifies a satellite, but it is public. It is not encrypted, and so an attacker can easily copy that code into their own system and broadcast pretending to be the satellite. What type of attacks are GPS signal are not defendable against? Well, the first attack is a typical attack that can affect any wireless network. It's known as signal jamming. Signal jammers are very illegal in the United States because they have a high disruption rate. A small signal jammer that's powered by a 12-volt DC battery, such as one in the car, used usually for employees to hide out from their bosses knowing where they are, such as truckers or contractors, can take down a whole city block and can disrupt the wireless frequency of multiple clients just from one small device. This has very immediate effects, but it's easy to catch, easy to track, and a lot of modern GPS devices can easily ignore this. The more insidious attack is called signal spoofing. This is where an attacker falsifies the data payload of a GPS signal, but keeps it in the valid packet format and copies that coarse acquisition code from before. And this has persistent effects, as how GPS works is when you get a GPS data packet, you shift over to keep in sync with the satellite. As falsified data packets come in, that history gets corrupted and persists for as long as you keep the history. Most modern GPSs, because they have a lot of memory, can now persist the history for very long. If they treat the input as valid by default, this can mean that bad data can persist for a very long time. The most famous recent example of this is the University of Texas, where the Humphrey's lab at University of Texas was able to spoof the signal received by a yacht's GPS system off the coast of Italy. The yacht was volunteered by the owner to see whether his system was secure. These students were able to convince the yacht's internal system by shifting the time payload of the GPS signal over so that it would think the satellite's farther away, that it was off course. And because of the automated systems that the yacht has, it would say, I'm off course, I need to change my course. They were even able to, as far, convince the yacht that it was underwater when other sensors should have obviously told it was not, and put it into a state of an emergency. A follow-up project by Carnegie Mellon, which cites that earlier one, was they said, well, let's take this a step further. If someone was to hijack a yacht and spoof the signal, you'd be able to find them real fast, and that'd be an issue of large national security. Let's make a low-cost digital signal processor-based GPS spoofer. They call it a signal synthesizer, to produce signals and update them in real time, take in the new signals, the valid signals from the GPS satellite, and produce these slightly augmented ones in real time so that it minimizes statistical difference, and so that it corrects to say, oh, make the receiver think I'm actually from where the satellite is. This hides their location and makes it really hard to track. They proved that it was easy to make with common parts that are accessible to the general public for under $2,500, and that these can perform attacks in real time. If an attacker wants to perform a very specific attack of high impact, they could do this, and unlike the jamming cases where people got caught because they were using it for personal use over and over for more petty reasons, this could have a large detrimental effect if it was a coordinated attack. So how do we defend against this? Well, first is we would need to detect it. The traditional way is to sanitize the inputs. Much like with cross-site scripting, we need to make sure that we're validifying who sent this data. We want to determine if the incoming data contains statistical outliers, because we're hoping that a lot of valid GPS data will offset a couple points of faraway invalid data or attack data. Much like with wireless sensor networks, though, we can benefit from the fact that most GPSs are embedded in larger systems. By fusing the data from other sensors, such as networking with other devices and saying, hey, are you getting this result? Every so often, we can get rid of that terrible effect that has on our history. If our history is inconsistent with a couple peers' history that we trust, then we should throw away our history. That way we won't act like the yacht and go off course because the history keeps updating. Even if good signals come in, this is a way to go back and fix previous mistakes. We also want to be able to prevent attacks. Now, while the only way to prevent a civilian-level attack on the system is to encrypt the authentication medium, which the military already has, and they should do at the protocol level, the client level, we can use something similar to just sensor fusion, which is we can use mixed mode location systems, we can use local positioning. We can use other features such as Wi-Fi networks and take their unique IDs and do a local trilateration in order to find out where we are, and compare that to the GPS trilateration to find out if the GPS satellite is who it says it is. Now, this has some drawbacks where we have to trust that the routers won't move. We have to then collect valid data. So doing a mix of this offline local trilateration and online connecting with our peers and saying, hey, is this valid data, we can have a more robust system that gets around the fact that the authentication is unencrypted. Thank you.